And away we go. I see Utes getting into this. I appreciate everybody for being here with us tonight. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and this is the Big 12 Mafia Show on the College Football Mafia Network. Again, I'm on my laptop. I expect to get my new computer on Thursday. But then I'm out of town on Friday. So I probably won't have the nice view with my camera again till next Tuesday. So everybody's just going to have to put up with looking at part of my ceiling and a little of the gear that I got behind me. I appreciate everybody for being with us tonight. It is a Tuesday night, busy weekend on news, the NFL draft wrap up, a lot of stuff going out in the world of sports right now. We're going to try to cover as many of those topics as we can. And then I want to invite you guys, if you have further topics, make sure you put them in the comments. Leave us a comment or question and give us the thumbs up. Join the conversation. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. And last but not least, make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know when we're on next. I want to introduce my co-host. That would be the Wild Ute and Moen. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hey. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Moen,
tell everybody what you're wearing.
Feeling pretty fly for a white guy right now. That's all I'm going to say.
You do.
Look at you, Moen.
You do look pretty fly. I remember when that video came out, and it did make fun of that was actually a pretty funny video, the one that came out for that. I want to thank everybody for being here later on a Tuesday. We know that news has gone on all through the day, but most of it I want to touch on right away is some of the nonsense we got going on these college campuses. There's a bunch of campuses that are under siege. And a lot of these are students that I feel like their opinions matter. Obviously, we're kind of three older guys, and our opinions might be a little different than some of these younger kids would be. But what are some of you guys' thoughts on what's going on? Certainly up at the U last night, there was a sit-in, and then there was a bit of an avalanche of attention, and then the police went and cleared that out. How'd you feel about that, Ute?
Yeah, I feel like college kids are going to be college kids. It is what it is. That's what you do in college, and so not surprising over here at all.
Moen, what do you think?
Yeah, those long-haired, dope-smoking hippies.
So the last time we saw stuff like this, I think our parents would mostly say that was during the 60s and 70s. I was, 76, 77, I distinctly still remember watching news reports, Walter Cronkite reporting on the students that were constantly talking about no war. And obviously that's not nobody should be saying anything about having war as their primary goal. But at the end of the day, what we can't have, and I want to make sure people know, is that we don't support violence, right? We don't support going out and destroying things. People ripping and breaking glass, and in some cases attacking students not getting to class. Here, I just want to say, and I know Greg did on his show earlier on Monday, this really is important that everybody can go out and protest. That's all great. Ute says students will be students, and that's true. But just make sure that the people that you're protesting with, if you're doing that, is actually a student, not somebody coming in from the outside trying to agitate and cause problems. All right. Moen, what's the first thing at top of mind as we go into a Tuesday night here?
Revenue sharing with athletes, employment status with athletes. Oh, man. Negotiations with a possible union of athletes, collective bargaining. There are so many things on the table. There's so many problems that they're trying to fix. And I think only half the story's out there right now. I think the other half is soon to drop. I wouldn't get too attached to revenue sharing. I just don't know that it's a solution.
Very fair. How about you, Ute? I know you've been diving into some of this stuff that's gone on with the financials with the ACC, and there's still stuff going on with Florida State over there. But what are you starting to figure out with some of these values that people think their school is? And we don't have to name a school. You can if you want. But maybe what they think they're worth maybe isn't necessarily what they're worth out in the public eye.
There are 3 gyms in the ACC, as far as media rights values. It's because of viewership numbers, the highest viewership numbers over the last 8 years, minus the COVID year. And the highest viewership is actually Clemson over that time period. That shouldn't be surprising given their success.
Right.
Then Florida State is second, and third is Miami. That's not a surprise to anybody, but that matters to media rights companies. So we talk so much about Clemson, Florida State, and Miami for a reason. It's because that's where the eyeballs have been over essentially the last decade. And yeah, I've been working on a project to determine some information about how much money ACC schools could take in a settlement and still make it advantageous to stay in the ACC without jumping over to a conference like the Big 12. Pretty fascinating stuff, actually. And a lot of it has to do with historical viewerships and how that could impact a media rights contract if teams were to leave. So totally dorked out, deep math this weekend and everything, and put some good work in that I'm excited to show to everybody probably next Tuesday when I polish it up and everything. You're going to want to see that. That is going to be some premiere watching. So
I've also got I don't know if anybody else caught it on Locked On Big 12. I'm not sure if it was yesterday or today. I want to make sure I get his name right. Dalton Pence, who's actually a Louisville booster. I believe he's a graduate. He was on Locked On Big 12 in the last day or two. And I would love to have him on our show because the way he looks at it from a Louisville perspective is so much different than the Pac-12, than like a Pitt would be, right? There's just fighting against it. Won't even countenance a different way of living. And he's more of a realist. And I think that really tells you the schools that are going to be able to move sooner and the ones that might miss the bus, right? I mean, it's not an unlimited train. Realignment is going on, right? We said that about the Pac-12. We knew there was a number there, and there's Washington State and Oregon State hanging out to dry. What do you guys think the number is for the ACC that pretty much the Big 12 goes here and no further?
Go ahead, Mon.
No, go ahead, because you're the financial wizard.
You're asking what the dollar figure is, right? Is that
not necessarily the dollar figure. I'm talking about what are the schools that could miss the train if they don't get proactive?
The AC schools are going to get left out here?
Yeah, the ones that might get left out that you wouldn't think they get left out.
Yeah, clearly we know that Wake Forest and Boston College are in a lot of trouble, right? California is in a lot of trouble too. So these are the schools that are going to have to remain no matter what happens. They don't have another landing spot. So Cal, BC, Wake Forest, and SMU would also be in that bucket too. And then everybody else is kind of in a little bit different tier, and it kind of ramps up a different level. Stanford isn't going to the Big 12. They're really the only fit for the Big 10. Is the Big 10 ever going to want them? They burned some bridges. So I don't know if that ever is a fit. If Big 10 doesn't want Stanford, then Stanford's not going anywhere either. So they're kind of in a murky situation. But then you go up to the Syracuses and the Georgia Techs, and it gets real murky. And the NC States too. Like who goes where? And there's not going to be landing spots for everybody. It's just that's not how this is going to work. There's going to be probably 4 that go over to the Big 12 and a couple that go to the Power 2 each. And so, yeah, what's happening with the remnant? I don't know. It's going to be difficult to tell. But there's going to be some schools left out. It's going to be those 4 mentioned.
Moen?
I like the remnant. We had the Hateful Eight. Now the ACC is going to have the remnant.
The remnant schools.
The remnant.
The remnant. Yeah, Wake Forest is out. Boston College is out. SMU is out. Those are the 3 that are coming right off the top of my head are out. They're not making it anywhere. They don't have any. Well, I mean, SMU certainly has value if they're going to pony up another $300 million or something to get into the Big 12. I mean,
could you imagine? They'd be over $1 billion in total revenue. They would have either given up or had to pay to get into a power conference. Is that, I mean, it just seems insane to me.
You know what's
impossible though?
Like talking about the valuations here, I'm looking at some information compiled over the weekend here in the last decade, essentially from 2015 to 2023, as far as average viewership in the ACC. there's a swath of teams that are hanging out over 500,000 in the average viewership department, but less than 1 million. So between 500,000 and 1 million, you've got a whopping 8 freaking schools.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
There. And then like you've got your Wake Forest and your Boston colleges that are per watch, essentially. So Wake Forest and Boston College, we already knew they were out. They are out. There's no chance they're getting in. But then everybody else is kind of jumbled right there. 8 schools jumbled with marginal viewership. And that viewership actually is less than, a lot of the Big 12 viewership. And so you're looking at media companies wise, more people tend to watch the Big 12 teams than the ACC. And once Florida State and Clemson are gone, it's going to get worse. It's a serious concern.
So I have a follow-up question on that. Just taking not the media values, but just the people watching and engaging with the schools. Are we at a point where if you're not at least at 1 million, there's a good chance you could not be in that top, whatever that final number is, purely because you don't have enough people watching your games?
Good chance of it. And that's a good analysis also too. There might be some exceptions, like UNC is less than $1 million in that bar. UNC's got more football viewership than NC State though, and Duke. Right. And so you're not guaranteed anywhere other than UNC. I still think UNC gets into the Power 2 based on the basketball viewership. This is football only viewership. Basketball viewership, they're so strong. They're the number 1 school. So a lot of them are borderline candidates. They are not slam dunk candidates. They're not slam dunk for the Power 2 nor the Big 12 guys. They're just not. Unless you're Louisville. Louisville actually has more than 1 million in viewership, guys. Louisville's 4th in the ACC. Louisville is the biggest slam dunk for the Big 12. It's the number 1 candidate. You have to get it. We've talked about that a lot. There's a video out there. Louisville is the heart of the Big 12. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect. So after Louisville's off the board, then it gets a little more murky, though.
I know that we have that project when we were going to do a special show. You kind of prefaced it a little bit ago. Is that something you're going to have prepared for Tuesday? Because if not, I could have Dalton on next Tuesday. I would rather do our project on a Tuesday thing, but I got chatting with him, and he would like to participate on our show at some point too. So you let me know what that date needs to be, but we're going to let you know, the viewers, when that is, and it's going to be a big deal, everybody. These are numbers that nobody else is looking at, just like all the other projects that we have done collectively and that Ute has really dialed into in detail. And it's really important that everybody knows that when we're going to put out an event like this, we want everybody to come. It's going to be appointment television, I think.
And why it matters to you is because you'll know exactly how much FSU and Clemson need to pay to the ACC to make it advantageous for teams to remain around without leaving to the Big 12 or elsewhere. That's why it's relevant. So you'll know the number. The ACC settlement doomsday number. That's exactly what is.
Maybe that should be the title of the show.
Exactly.
I don't know. Let's get to some of our super chats. Thank you, Moen, for marking these things for me. So Carrie Go Knowles here for $10 super chat. Also a member of the channel, says it's all going to come down with the teams paying the players and negotiating with them directly. So we haven't gotten to that topic yet. That's obviously the big topic of the day. But let's talk about that right now. Let's use that as an entree into that conversation. For months, we've all had different opinions. Immaculate's had a different opinion on how the players are going to get paid. I know each one of us has differed in different ways. I said they would probably be $10.99. Moen thinks they're going to be paid either by the conference or the school. I think you're in that boat too. And maybe it's changed. So correct me if I'm wrong. But going off of Carrie's comment here, what do you think that's going to be at? Because right now, the negotiations with the NCAA versus House, it's kind of crazy.
It's really crazy. And a lot can happen and change. I mean, we're talking about settlement money, so it might not solve the problem without, the government intervention, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty around everything. I think that at the conference level makes most sense to pay the players, though. So the conference gets the media rights money, and the conference distributes it to each school. So the conference is basically who receives that initial media money. And what we're talking about is sharing the media money, the media rights money with the players. So obviously just have the conference dole out the money to the rosters, to each player, and everything makes the most sense. It takes that burden away from the schools. It's right there anyway. It doesn't seem like it'd be overly complicated to do. So it just makes sense. The conference pays it out.
What do you think, Moen?
Well, I think first we got to let my Seminole brother cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Get her. And Georgia
Now,
Tech. Throw a Georgia Tech in there too.
Georgia Tech in there,
Georgia
brother.
Tech in there.
Let's talk about the fact that this whole idea of a settlement, they have not talked to any of the current players about the settlement. The only people that are getting represented right now are former players.
Right.
I don't think the current players are going to be happy with a deal where they can't unionize, where they can't collectively bargain, where they can't, you know, they don't want a salary cap. Why would they want a salary cap? So I think that this half of the story is being put out there by some people. Say, see, we're doing something, Congress. We're doing something. We just need you to help us come along and give us an antitrust exemption. But nobody's looking out for the current players right now. And I think those guys might have something to say about this settlement idea and this structured payment. I do ideally think that conferences should pay. I think that's what will happen, that conferences will pay. It just solves so many issues with Title IX, state employee systems. So I think conferences are the way to go, but I don't think you're going to get this 15, 20 million salary cap through without giving something to the existing players, the current players. So,
yeah, and that kind of touches on a different point of the whole paying the players issue, in that we're talking about many different streams of revenue. You have profit sharing or media sharing dollars, right? That they're anticipating just sharing the value of the gain of the media each year to the current players. Then you have the old players, House versus NCAA. You have current NIL, which they're still trying to figure out where that's going to go and who's going to be paying out of that. Is that going to be regulated by the school or the conference? And then last, out of the total media package, where are we going to be with kids possibly being paid by either the bowl games or in the playoff games, because they're extra, right? And that's a value that nobody's talking about right now. So
they're going to get theirs.
Extra games.
That's a great
point. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's so many different sources of revenue potentially. There's media rights revenue that could paid out at the conference level. There's the NIL money that could be paid out still for true NIL. Think that they're both going to coexist together. So we're just going to be doling out more and more money to these players. Like, how much are they freaking going to be making, guys? Like, seriously. Right. Like, the NFL has a salary cap. Like, Ohio State has a big dang budget. This is nuts. Like, if there's no salary cap, this is absolutely insane. It's straight bugs just thinking about how a kid could be making $20 million a year at Ohio State.
Collective bargaining, though, is that sort of outlier, right? It's the rock up on the hill that could come down and blow the whole thing up. Because if the current players go into a collective bargaining situation, then you have all kind of regulation that goes with that. So now they're a union, and they're able to take what they're selling, and the guy at UConn, the kicker at UConn, is going to be getting potentially the same amount of pay as the kicker at Ohio State. Is that equity? They're not at all in the same stratosphere in school or viewership or path, anything. Go ahead.
And you make a great point with the boulder on the hill. And the NCAA and Charlie Baker are trying to make this a Sisyphean task of not allowing these students to unionize, these student athletes. You know, they don't want them to unionize.
Right.
They don't want they want to get this all in front of Congress and say, look at what we did, antitrust exemption. We settled with the former players. Now give us our antitrust exemption so we can keep these players locked down. It's just an issue of more control against these kids. They don't like NIL. They want to stop the NIL market. It should be a free market system. Whoever can capitalize should be able to capitalize. Utah's, I'm sure, got their boosters that could pay out the nose. Every school does. So The NIL system should remain free market. I think that these players need to step up and unionize and collectively bargain the same way NFL players do. And if there's a salary cap, it should be a salary cap they agree to.
Right.
It's very easy for the people who are running things to say, oh, we're putting a salary cap in place that we agree to.
I think the voice of the players is now being heard, though. And we have lawyers all over the country that are picking up their ears and they're saying, wow, the NCAA is losing lawsuits left and right. I got this kid in my neighborhood who's been playing, hasn't gotten any NIL money. I'll just sue. Right? So part of this, well, let's stop that for a second. Let's get some shout outs to some people that have been here hanging on for a little bit. First, really quick, one more super chat. I don't want to forget it. Lonnie Johansson, $5 super chat, says, good evening from Northeast Kansas and go BYU, UAU, and the Big 12. I'll drink to that. Let's get some Georgia Tech action on that. That's awesome. Thank you, Lonnie. We really appreciate you being here. Let's get. I like that.
Nice.
I like that one so much. Let's start off here with Buckshot Kid. One of our members says, oh, hey, at the College Football Mafia. Thank you so much, Buckshot. I appreciate you being here and being a member. Timothy Green saying, if you're not first, you're last. Let's get ready for another great show. Thank you very much, Timothy. We really appreciate that. Joaquin Morales, another member, says, hey, college football family. Isn't this cool? We've had three comments, and they're all talking about the college football family. I love that.
That's right.
I can't tell you. That makes all three of us feel really good, by the way. You guys jazz us up and keep us coming back for more. Don't forget to smash that like button, and it's free. Let's go. I love it. And then Kerry Go Knowles said, what's up? Just cruising by. Appreciate it, Kerry. David Hackett says, busy Tuesday. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
With lots of news. We'll try to get to as much of it as we can. We're here for you guys. Sergeant Pickles, one of our contributors, had a good show. Pickles, you're doing a great job, man. Just keep up the good work. Have you guys caught Pickles' show recently?
Yes. Mondays
I
at
love
8
what he's
p.m.
covering. Absolutely love it. He's covering stuff we're not covering, which is
he's covering
fancy.
West Coast stuff.
That's right.
He's on
Anybody
the west
interested?
side.
Go ahead, Moen.
He's on the west side. I'm repping the east side.
That's right. And it's all Big Ten from coast to coast. So if you like Mountain West football, you like what used to be Pac-12 land football, you're going to want to follow that channel because it's USC, UCLA, Washington, and who's that other school? Oh, yeah, Oregon. They try to cover a little bit too. Anyways, thank you, Pickles. We appreciate it. Go Dogs is right. One other thing he says, Huskies just landed a 4-star transfer defensive end from Miami. Yeah, Miami. Yeah, anyway, we want to get to recruiting right now. Originally from Tacoma, Washington through Rock. Yeah, you're going to have to trade messages with Rock and Rand. He's probably not too happy with that. Daniel Gygax, another member, says, Bomber's going to be sad tonight. His favorite TV show just got canceled. Okay, let's be very clear. Vanderpump Rules has been put on abeyance. It's not canceled, okay? Ariana has to go to Love Island. We got issues.
What?
So it's
what are you
just
talking
an abeyance.
about?
It'll come back.
Love Island.
Love Island. I don't want, be very clear, I don't watch Love Island, but that's why it's been put in abeyance. So it hasn't gone anywhere, Daniel. Let's go, Mafia. Thank you very much, Don in Kansas. John Peterson, somebody new to the channel. Good to see you here, John. Whose house? I love radio.
Moen's house.
Moen's house. Conundrum says SEC and Big Joint Advisory Group will determine how the House versus NCAA will be settled. What do you think about that, Moen?
Yeah, they can try and determine it, but again, I think you're going to see these players are going to come out and say, "Whoa, hold up." The old guys, they're fine with it. They get paid. These young guys are saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," because you got screwed over. We're not getting screwed over. So, not so fast, my friend.
I love
Not
it.
so fast.
I love it so very much. Hearing that wisdom from on high at Ohio State. That's always easy when you're looking down, right, Mom? Caleb Ramirez, good to see you here, Caleb. He says here. Another comment from Sergeant Pickles says, Bomber going with the Pickles laptop setup. I see. Yeah, I feel dirty. I got to admit, I do this for work, and doing this for fun is not fun. So I'm only doing it for you people. I'm only here for you guys. Just want to be very clear. Tempest, another one of our members says Moen looks like the Limp Biscuit.
You do look like Limp
He
Bizkit.
does.
I did it.
You need
Soft
to
with a
stand up
nookie.
and do it. Can you stand
Did it.
up and take your microphone and pound it up and down? Can you do that? Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. That is fantastic. Thank you, Moen. Illini Ted, a newly
What's
minted
up?
member of the moderators group for the College Football Mafia Discord channel. If you're new to this channel, you guys at the end of the show we'll post the link for our Discord server, and it's growing. We're almost at 100 people on it, and we're talking football, basically all things college sports all day long in that Discord. So looking forward to doing that with more of you people. Steve High Florida says more dominoes may start to fall in the ACC. If only that was true. I'm waiting for that to happen. I want to take a deep breath. Thank you very much for being here, Steve. We appreciate it. Lonnie Johansson again says, good afternoon from Northeast Kansas. So he paid us once and he got it out once. There you go, Lonnie. I hope that works for you. Mary Crocker Rohe. Do I have that right? FSU
Yes,
started the sprinklers and lawnmowers on the protesters. I don't know why they all didn't do that.
Wow.
I don't know why they all didn't do that. Just turn on the sprinklers.
I don't know. It's been hot in Ohio. I think they might have enjoyed that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it might have been a release. Laura Weiss, another member, says, hey, y'all, I come in peace, Ute.
Hey,
Got some smiles.
Utah's going to win the Big 12. Let's just establish this right now. This year, Big 12 fans, Utah's going to win. Cam Rising is going to be the Big 12 player of the year. Utah will win a playoff game.
Here we
Predictions.
go. Or he blows his knee out in the third game of the season. And
how dare you? Come on.
He gets another year of eligibility.
His injury history is just so bad. Yeah, but he could. Utah's loaded again. Anybody who thinks Utah's not loaded for Bear, you haven't been paying attention. They are. I just think it's going to be a little bit rougher than they think it is going to be. Mr. Ed Wayner, another member, says, hey, y'all, college football is a year-round media sport. Can we?
That's right. Boom.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
When you and I started this channel, I think we're about a year now, Ute. We need to look back and check the original post of our first video. But when we first started this, it felt like, I don't know, like it was easy, right? We were able to.
It felt like most of the content was going to come during the football season. There's plenty,
right,
but there's plenty in the off season too.
It's not turned out to be that way at all. It is work, but we try to practice and get everybody in here. The Big Lubbock, another member, says, hello, guys.
What's up?
Rock Chalk 94 says, hey, guys, sorry I'm late. Don't ever have to apologize to us, Rock Chalk. And there we go. On time. Glenn Lumen from the Philippines. One of our original, he's an OG member. He's been a member, I think, from the very beginning, from our first subscribers. Glenn, thank you so much for being a member. And boy, we really value you and your opinions. Thank you for being here and spending your time, your mornings with us. I know in the Philippines, you have some beautiful dawns. So if you're listening to us, watching the sunrise, that makes me feel good. Let's see. A lot of good comments here. I can't do them all, though. Let's see here. How about this one? Conundrum says, 5 million buy-in or don't waste your time. What do we think the minimum amount's going to be for the top level of schools? Whether that's the big in the SEC or it's the P4, P3 plus 5, whatever, plus a half. Do we think, because they've talked about 10 to 20 million, right?
Right. They keep bringing up that 20 to 25 million number. That's the number they want to pay. I think the real number is probably going to be closer to 40.
Oh,
year? Wages? Are you speaking of the back wages?
No, I'm talking about capping them. If you're going to put a cap on a school's NIL, it's going to be about 40 million.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the settlement for House versus NCAA, what the schools are going to have to donate out of their media budget every year to do the back pay and all that other stuff. He's saying 5 million buy-in. Do you think that amount's going to be closer to the 10 to 20 has been reported?
I think the settlement's just going to be a bulk settlement. They're just going to pay it off right away.
Oh, that's not what I understood. I thought it was each school was going to put money into a fund, and then they were going to pay into that every year.
You could, but I mean, if you're going to settle for $1 billion, you might as well pay it off all at once.
Well, there's some schools that obviously can't do that.
Some schools that can't. I understand.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we're not sure. We'll just have to see how it goes. But thank you very much.
Conversation. It's a good conversation. Plus, like, how much would a salary cap be in theory? So, say that there was a collective bargaining, the salary cap was implemented. Would it be based on a percentage of like the conference media rights, or would it be a flat amount?
Mo,
and how much would it be?
Like well, okay. So here's my thinking. You have your revenue share that gets dispersed to everybody. It's an average number for everybody. But then you also have your NIL, which is outside the purview of the school, like it is now, where it's a free market NIL system. And they say that if that free market system caps at 40 million, you can't have more than 40, you can't have more than players with 40 million in NIL on your team. So I think that's the cap. I think they're two different things. I think you've got revenue distribution that has to be dispersed to all revenue generating employees, which are student athletes, basketball, football. Some schools will be wrestling, some schools will be baseball.
Right.
It's going to vary school by school. You slice out a chunk of the revenue just like you do for the conference. So right now the Big Ten has 19 revenue slices. Assuming that we add 2 more schools, it would end up being 22 revenue slices, including the conference and the players. And then I think NIL is separate from that. I don't think the current players want to give up the NIL that they've just got. They're making way too much money on that new free market NIL to just say, okay, we'll give that up.
How much do you reckon the revenue sharing would be then, Moan?
That's what I'm saying. It would just be a slice of the media revenue. It would just be
a portion of it.
Right. You would cut it off and say, here's the 22nd portion of the 22 for the Big Ten. This is for players to be dispersed. And then you just got to figure out how many revenue generating players you have and disperse that throughout.
None of the other sports make money. None of the other sports make money. So you're taking money and you're giving it to the swimming team?
No, revenue generating sports.
Okay, so who would those be? Basketball and football?
Basketball, football, certain schools, baseball generates revenue.
Okay, right.
At Ohio State, wrestling generates revenues, so wrestlers would get some of it.
Volleyball, BYU makes a ton of money on volleyball.
Yeah, if you're generating revenue for the school, you should be entitled to revenue share.
Right. Okay. God, when you first said that, I was losing the track a little bit. I thought you were saying anybody who's in one of the official sports at the university will get money, and I don't think the
well, they already do.
I know, but starting tackle should make gobs more money than the second backup on the crawl and on the swimming team does.
Sure, if you generate revenue, you should get a piece of that revenue share.
Okay.
I love that idea, Moen. So you're saying that based on like how much revenue you're bringing in per sport, you get a cut of that allocation or that piece of it. So football players are going to get most of it. They'll get 80% of all the media rights that are coming in. Basketball players will get about 18 to 19%.
It's going to vary by school. It'll vary school by school, but that's the way it should be done. And then you'll have NIL separate. So say a Caleb Downs gets his minimum payment, and then he's got also his NIL deals throughout Columbus City. He also has on top of it. So I don't think they should touch the NIL except maybe do a salary cap, but that has to be agreed to among the players.
I don't see there's any way that you can do a salary cap for NIL. You could do it for sharing media rights, but NIL is a completely different animal.
So
that's free market stuff.
Rules on the NFL level, though? Aren't there rules to how the advertising, like, I thought there was limits on how much, like,
sponsorships
used to go out. Yeah.
No, you can go. Limited? It's laissez-faire. They take their hands off on sponsorships. So.
Okay, all right. And so NIL, it basically is that.
As it should be. It's free market.
Right. Okay. Well, it's going to be fascinating to track for sure. I think that's a great discussion. It's not going to go away. We just need to pay attention because the details do matter, and that money revenue that Ute is tracking. That's why people come here. If you're new to the channel, this is what we do. we have these discussions, and then we come up with items that we think are really sort of outliers, stuff that nobody else is covering. And some of the details we just discussed here, you're not going to see anywhere else. And then we try to add numbers to that data, and want to make sure everybody knows that's what we do here. Let me get a few more shout outs, and then we'll get back onto our first main topic, which is the Ross Dellinger article. RFR Mac, another member, says, I find this so sad. I'm thinking that's in when we were talking about the students. I'm just going to assume that's what that topic is. It is sad. There's no doubt about it. I just don't want to see people get hurt. I think it's interesting at Columbia University, where it started, the students took over a hall, busted all the windows, and now they're asking for free pizza.
Free pizza?
Yep. The university made it so they couldn't get supplies in. And so they sent out and they said, well, we need to be treated like human beings. And so we should get free food and drink. Take care of us after we've taken over your, I don't know.
Hey, Nate, I want to be treated like a human being. Send free pizza to my house right now.
It's in cheap beer too. You're a college kid waiting out there.
Georgia Tech. Here we go.
Georgia Tech.
Going to hit you guys where it counts. All right. Expedition Greg says, hey, everyone. Mountaineer Mama. Good to have you here, Mountaineer Mama. I think you might be new to the channel. I appreciate you being here. Everybody that let's see, we're 75 people watching. I'm going to put the member video out. Please pay attention and consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia network of channels.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
All right, and you might not have it queued up because I forgot to give you the heads up, but tell everybody what they get as members with Wild Ute and all the other videos we do.
Oh, heck yeah. So members try to add value to you guys. We work hard on videos and everything. We do a lot of digging into different models that have been created right now in Wild Ute University. There's the Louisville to the Big 12 video out there, and the Notre Dame to the Big 10. Those are for members only. Those are going to stay for members only. We're not going to release those to anybody else. So it's something that you can watch. Please do check out Louisville to the Big 12. That's all you need to see. If anyone wants to say who's the best candidate for the Big 12, that sums it up right there. There's so many other things you could point to. Louisville's the #1 candidate, and that explains why. This week, we've got a special one based on recommendations from the community, and that's NC State to the Big 12 Conference. So NC State to the Big 12 Conference, and not the SEC, but to the Big 12. Is NC State a good fit for the Big 12? You think, right? Right? You will find out. You will find out.
That's foreshadowing.
And I've actually got a survey question, Mo, and I'm wondering if you could make it. And this is just for fun here, but after doing a little bit of just do a poll. Just after digging into some ACC viewership info over the past decade, what portion? So here's the poll question: what portion of viewership does FSU and Clemson make up? So what portion of ACC viewership does Clemson and Florida State make up over the last decade? Here are the 4 options, Moan. Okay. So number one.
Okay.
25%.
Okay.
Number 2, 30%. Number 3, 35%. And number 4, 40%. I want to see what folks think about that.
Okay, I'll say my vote before you give the readout later, Mo, and I want to give my vote first. So we'll do that when they're all done. That's a good poll question. You like that? That's really good.
All right, Dellinger. Oh, there we go. Here we go.
No, let's do this last comment, and then we'll do Dellinger next. Yeah, you can bring up that. If you can go to the link that had the summary, so it had the first 5 lines. That's the one we'll want to pop up. Mr. Ed Weiner, one last comment. And if I didn't get to your comments, guys, we're like over 200 comments. We just try to get to a few at the beginning of the show. I want to thank everybody for leaving their comments. And just so you know, the comments are read in priority of just general comments to membership comments. And then We of course defer to all super chats. All right, Mr. Ed Wainer, just to sew up one of the threads that we've been talking about. The NFL has leverage over players because most players have short careers. Wouldn't that also apply to colleges over student athletes since they are mostly 5-year players, unless you're Cam Rising? What do you guys think about that?
Him and JT Barrett are really enjoying this.
Yeah, or Bo Nix last year. Yeah,
Bo Nix. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, especially for running backs anymore, you used to see running backs. You used to see them going off the first round of the draft like this.
Right.
Now you never see a running back go in the first round. They're always a second round pick or better because they just use them up and spit them out.
Seattle took one last year, and I just about threw a doorknob through my TV. But anyway.
But I also think that these students have leverage over the college because of how much money college football brings into some of these institutions. Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia. Look how much revenue they generate from college football. Right. It's insane.
Here's a thought experiment, okay, guys? Okay, so if we go to an employee-based model, we get there and football players in college are considered employees. What's to stop the notion of eligibility? Meaning, why should you only have a 4-year career if you're an employee?
I've thought about that before.
Why can't you be a college player, which is basically pro football at that time because you're an employee? Why couldn't you have a 15-year career at the University of Utah, especially if you don't have like a draft status, like a positive draft status? Why couldn't you just juice your roster with older players? That's the next shoe to drop no one's talking about.
You really want Cam Rising to hang around, don't you?
Cam Rising's going to be here another 10 years.
He does want. That is true. I thought about that before you. I mean, everything else is being blown up. What's to say they blow out the eligibility rules for term limits? I mean, if I'm a player like Cam, let's just use. We're not beating up on Cam. Everybody knows Cam's a stud. He's going to be great in this next season. So we're just teasing here. So if you're a Utah fan, don't freak out. We're not criticizing Cam, but he has been around a while because of injuries, especially. What's to say you're tied to anything? It used to be you had to have minimum level of credits, a minimum amount of commitment to the university. Now people are staying out 2 and 3 years after they've gotten their master's program completely finished, especially because of COVID. What is to stop somebody being eligible for 10 years? What's the limitation? I mean, you're an employee.
You can argue it's illegal if you're an employee because of age.
Well, sure, because they're not getting benefits necessarily. That's right.
Age discrimination, right? Like if you're an employee of the school, if you're the janitor, get paid by the school, you can't age discriminate. That's the next shoe to drop if we go to employee-based model series. Just think about that.
Unintended consequences of these changes. Mo, do you want to say anything before I get to some super chats?
Nope. Let's move on to those 2 super chats.
All right, let's do it right now. We got Dad Mac for $2 super chat. Dad Mac's a member. Thank you very much. Why not have high school kids go directly to the NFL? So, one of you guys feel comfortable? I know the answer, but one of you guys want to speak to that?
Yeah, because high school kids need time to develop. It's not basketball. You need time to develop, and you can't go from a high school coaching system to an NFL coaching system. You have to have that stop in between to develop properly.
Yeah, the maturity factor. Right?
Yeah, you could have high school kids go to the NFL and they're all going to wash out.
Right.
Or the majority of them will wash out as opposed to going to college. I see where he's going with this, the NBA to the high school level, but I think football and basketball are 2 wildly different sports with wildly different makeup. I don't see that happening ever.
You?
The NFL has a rule to hedge against that. I believe you have to be in college at least 2 or 3 years or a certain age. Is it 2?
2 years, yeah.
Because of what Moan's saying, because just getting your body ready for the physicalness of the NFL. The NFL is a different animal. It's a crazy high school kid. Thinking about an 18-year-old kid playing in the NFL might get seriously injured if he doesn't have the physicality yet. So it's a liability risk too. So Moan nailed it.
And I would just use as the exemplar Johnny Manziel. He thought about suing the NFL to get in, after his freshman year. He won the Heisman, and
Well,
he considered
and
doing that.
and the two kid Maurice Claret and the kid from USC did.
That's right. Yeah.
And they both
He's
wa-
not
they
the
both
only one.
washed out. They both
Right.
washed out.
They all the players that go through the supplemental draft, they never end up having long careers, ever. So, and then our last super chat, I believe this is the last one. Moan, correct me if I'm
Cleveland
wrong.
Rocks.
Cleveland
Thank you.
Rocks for $20 saying keep the lights on. Thank you, Cleveland Rocks. We're very grateful for that. There we go. An extended clap. You waited a long time. Double clapping
Thank you.
because you waited a while for that to pop up, Cleveland Rocks.
Yeah.
You
You guys, I'm really happy that only our members are going to watch this NC State to the Big 12 video. Like that's coming out this weekend. I'm glad that's not getting out to everybody. That one's going to cause a stir, guys. I can't wait for our members like Cleveland Rocks and everybody else. Like I love it seeing all like the members make comments and everything, and just working with you guys and providing content for you. Much appreciated. This is going to be a good one, though. You got to see this weekend. Check out NC State. See if it's a fit to the Big 12. It is eye-opening. Eye-opening.
Moen, do you want to explain the gift memberships really quick?
Yeah, if you guys want to gift a membership or become a member or leave a super chat, you can just go down to the little cash icon under the cash window or the chat window and do that. I just want to add that we're exceptionally grateful. And there's a lot of gratitude coming this way to you guys for helping us do all this. We're just three guys talking about a sport we love, but you guys have really come in and helped us make it a community. And I just want to say thank you for that and how much we appreciate you and Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Take another drink. All right. If you want to put up the Ross Dellinger tweet.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. Here's the link, by the way, to this tweet. So everybody, we always like to give credit to the creators. Ross Dellinger's been diligent recently in his reporting of everything going on in all of college sports. Let's see here. All right. So if you take the link I just posted in the comment section, it'll take you right to this tweet. Basically, what it says here is, we'll just highlight what this article is about. The title is, what would House versus NCAA settlement mean? A revenue sharing model to end college. I don't know what the last word of that is. To end college something.
So revenue share model. And then first
to end
point.
College amateurism. Right? College amateurism. Anyway, this is the highlights of this article. It's extremely long, very detailed, but I wanted to run through at least these highlights and kind of take you guys' comments and questions, and let's have a discussion about this. Ross Dellinger says a Yahoo Sports analysis of a possible revenue sharing model. I'm going to make this big, so there we go. Money, 15 to 20 million, permissive cap per school. Legal protection for 8 to 10 years. That's actually a shield from further lawsuits. They're trying to say, look, if we settle, you can't sue us again for the same thing for 8 to 10 years. It's pretty standard. I come to find out I didn't know that, but that's what that is for. It's a legal shield, so people, at least on this issue, can't turn around and re-sue the NCAA. Third one is still needed Congress. And I think that's hilarious, meaning college people went to Congress last year and begged basically for oversight, and Congress says you don't want us involved. If we get involved, your world's going to change, and so they went away for a while. But I guess it's coming back. So they're asking for help from Congress with legislation. Still a thing, NIL collectives, transfer liberty. Go ahead,
Transfer liberty. That's a new phrase right there that we all know what it is. Transfer liberty. That needs to be stifled. The transfer issue is one of the biggest issues in college sports. So having a player under a 1, 2, or 3 year deal, or possibly a 4-year deal, is key for the survival of our sport in the long term. So that's the new phrase to pay attention to. Transfer liberty.
I think it's actually come out even more because recently the NCAA ruled that it's unlimited transfers. You can transfer a school transfer to another school, and transfer to another school. And except for the fact that you're undercutting your own educational credits, you might not ever graduate because you've lost them all in your transfers. That's the only restriction. It seems pretty crazy to me that it would be that open. But anyway, the growing the G5 gap. Moen, why don't you tell everybody what that means?
It means the G5 is not getting paid nearly as much as the Power 4 is. And that's only going to keep increasing more and more with the additional revenues from the college football playoff, because in reality, you're probably not going to see a G5 get in every year. In fact, it's probably going to be very seldom you see a G5, I think, get in.
And then the last thing, and this is looming, so further legislation, Title IX and a deadline. The Title IX was expanded via fiat, basically, by President Biden. And they're basically saying that Title IX is now open, and it's across so many different myriad things, and it's covering stuff that it never was intended to cover, or not covering it, if you want to include that as well. And so that's something that obviously is going to have to be settled too, because regardless of what happens with football settlement, the women aren't going away. And anybody thinks that women don't deserve to have equality in general, they're absolutely blind, because there's guys, I'm sorry to tell you this, but there's less of us than there are of them. So they're going to need to start getting paid. And that right now is completely unresolved. And we don't have enough information to really talk about that now, but it is something that's looming. I like that title, looming. All right.
The most concerning one right here is this. So all these are great points. And
sorry, let me go back here. Go ahead, you.
Yeah. So one of the most concerning out of these is this, especially for the football game that we love so much, is this growing G5 gap. And what that looks like in dollar terms, G5 schools, like say you're a Mountain West school, you're making a little less than $10 million in media rights money, and you get like $1 million or $2 million in college football playoff money. So essentially, you're only making $10 million for your football team per year, like it's as far as media rights related monies. And then you compare that to even the Big 12 conference, and the Big 12 is making approximately $44 million if you're looking at media rights and CFP monies. So you're looking at 4 times 4 more times for the Big 12 compared to a G5 conferences like the Mountain West. Then obviously that amplifies a lot more for the SEC and the Big 10. So that gap is so big. Not even like at the Big 12 to G5 level, but just think about the Big 10 G5 level. It's a 10 times gap almost. It's crazy, guys. So that it continues to grow. How competitive can G5 programs be? We will find out, but that's pretty ominous.
I'm really quick. I'm not sure who's with us right now. If we have a representative of a G5 conference that's watching right now live, or an Oregon State or Washington State booster or fan that wants to join the show, we want to talk to you about kind of what you're feeling right now, because luckily our schools, all 3 of us, are not in this looming cliff that these schools are going to be in, and I really care how they feel, because it wasn't so long ago that Utah and BYU were in the same boat. Let's not kid ourselves. We're very young in this whole 110 120 year old deal. We're young in that whole thing compared to Ohio State. So I'm going to post the link. If we have a G5, and you can be a fan of multiple schools, I don't care. I'm not going to check cards or anything. But if you want to join the channel and talk with us for 5 minutes or so about what this meant to you today over the last, actually, I would say the last week, how this has been ominous, coming sort of like a dark cloud on the horizon. I'd like to see if anybody wants to talk about that, because I think it is a problem. And what you said right now, if you take everybody, it's roughly half of all of college football would not qualify in the bigger league, for the bigger money right now. And that's a fact. There's, the schools that are in and the schools that are out. That includes Washington State and Oregon State being out. So if you're a fan, please take that link. Moen, what do you want to add to what you just said?
I just want to put out there that I have the poll results that are in.
Oh, don't say it yet. I want to say.
Poll result. Wait, yeah. Let's hear what you guys think.
I say 40%.
Okay, 40%. So you're at the highest bar right there.
I do.
Oh, wait. Let's remind folks. What does the poll say, Moan? What's the title?
What portion of viewership do FSU and Clemson make up for the ACC?
Yep. What do you think, Moan?
I'm going to say 35%.
What are the poll results?
You're teasing me.
40% and give Mo and pizza at 44%. 35% came in at 38%, and then 25 at 8 and 30 at 8.
So everyone's thinking in that 35 to 40% range. Yeah.
Yes.
So the answer is 35%, y'all. It's 35%. That's what those two schools make up in historical, decade-long ACC viewership. If you throw Miami into the fold, it gets around 45 to 46% of all ACC viewership. So you're almost at that point, you're almost half of ACC viewership, including the Miami Hurricanes with those schools. So tell me that's not a big deal losing those schools, guys. Tell me.
I don't think there's anybody that's saying it isn't. Hey, at the end of the day, just because, let's be very clear, that's just viewership numbers, right? That's not value for the media deals, right? Let's make sure we're setting the correct paradigm. We're talking about people that are watching, sitting behind their on their televisions on a Saturday watching a game. The values, do we know what that percentage is yet?
I mean, yeah, you could back into that, but really the big idea to take away is viewership equals values, unfortunately. In this new world that we're living in, eyeballs equal your value as a school as far as your media rights. Obviously, if we lived in a different world and it wasn't about media rights, there'd be a lot of other factors that come in consideration. But as far as realignment goes in the ACC, it's all about your eyeballs. So your eyeball share, I'm going to call that, is massive. It's the biggest component to moves. And so there you go. Like, it's huge.
Ryan Willie coming in from the woods. Glad to join us. He joined us a little while ago. Appreciate it, Ryan. Good to see you. Valued member of the Mafia family, and get $5 super chat to say unlimited transfers will ruin college football. You just said that. ACC will be a G5 conference in 2 years. So I know we've talked about this for the last year, an entire year we've been talking about this. Has anybody's opinion changed that at the end of the day, once Clemson and Florida State leave, the ACC is going to be on a life raft?
Moan?
They'll survive. They'll survive. I mean,
explain what survival looks like.
Well, they'll probably get a new deal from ESPN that's going to be much less than their current deal. But I mean, you're going to add probably Oregon State, Washington State, Tulane, Rice, some more schools into the fold there. You're still going to be one of the autonomous four. I think you're going to have enough schools that stay behind that have enough power and influence to keep that conference as an autonomous conference.
Recently thought the same way, Moan, changing my view. And that's all I'm going to say on this matter until next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, the special show. We're laying the groundwork now. Tell your family, tell your friends. Next Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday, the number that you need to know, that we all need to know in consideration of ACC survival. It's the number, guys.
Conundrum coming in high off the top rope to say Apple Plus equals the ACC. Apple
Screw
Plus
Apple.
Save the ACC. Is that true, Ute?
I hate Apple Plus and Apple. Gosh. Just seeing
I don't
Apple
know
makes me
anybody who
mad.
has it. I've never met anybody who has Apple TV.
I have it. I like some of the shows. Yeah.
You're the only person I've ever met, Nate, that has
Okay.
Apple TV.
Well, I'm a little more nuanced than you are.
I guess they have some kind of terrible reality shows on there for Nate.
No, they don't. They have some very, very cool dramas and historical shows. So I'll just say that.
Apple Plus, there's your provider right there. I mean, Apple Plus lowballed the pack like with an $18 million offer. What the freak are they going to offer the ACC after they lose? The big
I'm thinking
schools?
10 to 12.
That's not outside the realm of possibility, 100%.
Shonsky coming in, a valued member of the party, somebody I recently had lunch with. That was a lot of fun. I think everyone has to take a deep breath and see what happens this year with the realignment already established, including the four corners joining the Big 12. Things change year to year. I see Oklahoma State, Utah, and Kansas State getting in.
Beautiful. I would love to see 3 Big 12 teams get into the college football playoffs.
That would be fantastic. That would be literally fantastic. And that's, where we need to get back to that tribalism with the conferences. We've lost that over the last several years. It's been pretty much everybody for themselves, especially when BYU joined the Big 12. They were eating themselves alive. Their fans, nobody was aligned. Now, since Yormark's come in, everybody's towing the line, and now it's all for one for all. And I hate to say this, BYU and Utah, I want them to be the final 2 at the end of every season. And I, of course, want to beat Utah. But when it comes on the national level, we need to be supporting these other schools because we need the conference to do well if we're going to stay relevant. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm going to cheer for Utah, because I won't cheer for Utah.
Understood.
All right. More comments. Let's see here. Dana Gygax says you can get it for 3 months free. Andrew Ferguson, watching us new. Well, thanks for being here, Andrew. He says, why do they need all these middlemen? There's no AFC West commission. There's no Super Bowl commissioner. The schools and players need to own and control this sport. Moen, you've been kind of saying the same thing for a while. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's accurate to an extent, but I think you still have to use you have to have a middleman to avoid some of these Title IX implications, public retirement situations, because some of these are public schools, guys. If they're an employee of the school, they're automatically a public sector employee.
Right.
You're going to have issues, especially with their NIL. They're not going to want to take huge chunks of the NIL money they're making and get taxed on that and then have to pay into a retirement system as well. So, especially a retirement system they're probably never going to have access to.
Sounds right. You want to add anything to that?
One of the issues is the age of the players. In the NFL, you've got men in their 20s. In college, oftentimes, you get 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Sometimes if you're camerazing, you're 24. I guess that's a little bit of a outlier. But like with the younger players that are there for a temporary amount of time, like how much dedication are current players really going to put into this? How much experience, how much knowledge base do these kids have? They're kids. And so it's a little bit different dynamic than the NFL, but the schools need to help a lot and have an advocate group for these players because they're young men.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Let's see here. Friends call me Sean. Good to see you here, Sean. You're in a little bit late, but we love to have you. Says ACC survival means a deluxe AAC.
It's AAC plus.
Let him cook for that, please. Let him cook.
Let him cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
I love that drop.
AAC plus.
AAC plus. Let's see here. Conundrum says, if DraftKings offers Shonsky pick, then I'm jumping on it. DraftKings coming in again off the top rope. Thank you very much, Conundrum. Always being live as we go through these comments. I want to continue to ask you guys to keep giving us your comments. We're going to go through them. This is a people-driven show. We do the highlights of the news, and then we go try to do the analysis based on questions and comments you guys give us. So don't be afraid to get involved. I'm going to do this. I'm going to post the invite link again. And again, I'm going to invite anybody who's a fan of a G5 school, Oregon State or Washington State, that wants to come in and tell us why you think or how you feel after this House versus the NCAA reporting from the last several days. We really want to hear it. So I just put that out there again. If you just click the link, it'll walk you through. We'll get you right on the show. Dan Miter, another member, says, just got to the chat. So this back pay in this proposal back to 2019, is this a lump sum or schools have to pay these players? I hadn't heard what the first year was. Is it 2019? Is there a year?
I've always just seen it referred to as back pay for
players.
That sounds correct. 2019.
Does it?
In
Okay.
that timeline, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we want to chase down that question. Can one of you write that down for me?
And I
And I'm
think the
happy to
reason
do the
for that is
research.
when NIL started.
Right.
NIL started in
Right.
that
Okay.
time frame, and then all of a sudden, that's when you can kind of back pay this.
Okay.
Saying that's when NIL was instrumented, because you
So,
can't go before that because it wasn't legal.
So we're talking about just cash payments, right? We're not talking about benefits at all, like
Right.
health benefits or anything.
Those are given, yeah. Those are already happening. The health benefits aspect of this, yeah.
Okay, because it didn't used to be that way in the '90s. I know there was a big uproar. You'd have all these injuries on turf that was horrible in college stadiums, and the players weren't getting any. Once they left the university, they didn't have anything taken care of them. I didn't realize that was now something that was going on. Is that true? Every university covers their players after they leave the school?
After they leave, no.
Yeah, see,
No,
that's what
no.
I think they're looking for. I think they're looking for aftercare. I'll try to chase that down. I'll try to, like I said, if one of you guys could write that down for me, I'll try to track that down and find out if that's actually true, if there is a limit.
That's a completely reasonable request. If you're going to put your body out there and play college football, it's like
Right.
a car wreck every time you're getting hit.
Yeah.
And so medical benefits and perpetuity make 100% sense. That's just almost a moral kind of question, right? To take care of these players post-career.
Completely agree with you. And if there was a sandbox to get, or a soapbox to stand on to tell people how I felt about that, I absolutely would have said exactly your words. You would, I think they do too. They're the ones that are out there playing. You know, they're the ones we're cheering. We in some, even if it's a fan-driven thing, some way they need to be given money for their aftercare because they blow their knees out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in 20 years, Cam Rising might not be able to walk because of what stuff he's had on his legs. It's just nuts. Joey Z, one of our members, says it was 2013. So yeah, we're gonna want to chase that down. I think that's a good open question. See here, Replica, another comment says, did y'all hear about the NIL drama at Louisville? The mass exodus happened because Jeff Brom kicked a lot of players off the team. Moen, you're closer to that than we are. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, Jeff Brom's a good coach, and if he kicked him off the team, I'm sure he had a good reason. He did a fantastic job at Purdue. I know if you're at Louisville, it might look bad to see all these guys leaving. Let him clean house. That guy's a good coach. He will take you far in this new college football age. So, I mean, he took them last year. Louisville
Yeah,
played.
they were right there to the championship game.
Yeah,
with Florida State.
So
yeah,
just let Jeff Brom cook.
Let him cook.
Okay. Friends Call Me Sean says AC plus best G5 plus conference. I would agree with that for sure.
I've got a question for Bomber here, okay?
Okay.
So there's been some ACC backlash, but largely it's kind of been muted and tamed a little bit. How does it compare versus the Pac-12 backlash last year from like a Big 12 standpoint?
So you and I met talking about this, right? It to me, it was just from a common sense perspective, knowing Washington as well as I do, you know, growing up with them, cheering for them and everything. I knew there was no way in hell they were joining rump Pac-12. The minute USC, they looked at USC as their only real competition. Oregon still isn't in their horizon. Once USC left, there was no way they were sticking around. So I don't think Pac-12 could have, I mean, you guys could have got a $50 million offer. I still don't think they would have taken it. So for me, I see that and I'm like, okay, well, now what's the ACC doing? It's the exact same thing. If Florida State and Clemson leave, and we know they're going to leave at this point, just a matter of the details, what does the rest of the conference have? North Carolina, yeah, there's a lot of political pressure there, but what does the SEC do? I still don't think the SEC wants to add anybody. Why would they add a school just out of charity? So UNC is basically in that, they're just like Washington. They're going to go, wait a second, we're the last one standing here? That's why I think they're going to do everything they can to try to get away from North Carolina State. I know Moen doesn't agree with that, right, but I look at them the exact same way. The political pressure in North Carolina, though, I do tip my hat to that. There is a lot more political backlash in the state of North Carolina than there was in Oregon or Washington. So there is that possibility, but it has nothing to do with the expiring media contract, even though last year he was saying, but wait a second, they have this media deal till 2036. Oh, wait a second. No, sorry. 2025, they can either take it or not take it. So basically, they're on an expiring media contract too. There's so many similarities between the Pac-12 and the ACC. I just don't. They're too similar to me.
What about the fan reaction, pushback from the Big 12?
Okay, great. That's a great question. Thanks for asking these questions. It takes me down the Wayback Machine. So you remember I was looking for a Utah person to do a show with. Yeah, I looked for 6 months to find one Utah person that would even return a reply on Twitter. And it was because Utah fans they huddled down. They were trying to stay out of the way, and they didn't want to cause any trouble. They wanted to stay so close to Washington and Oregon, they were willing to basically wait the thing out. And the minute that it was apparent that Washington and Oregon were gone, it was obvious that all of a sudden now you put your hand up, wait a second, we're here. And, the Big 12 was wanting them all along. So from a fan perspective, nobody in the Pac-12 was talking about it. The only people I could get to engage were Arizona and Arizona State people, probably the two that had the least amount to do with the day-to-day workings on how everything worked. Kirk Schultz was the guy that was giving all the tips to John Canzano and John Wilner. And and now we find out that Kirk Schultz was out in the left field. Nobody was even taking his calls in Eugene or in Seattle. So who do we hear from? Pitt. We hear from Wake Forest. At least when the first realignment came around, I got Wake Forest people out of the hills were sending me DMs saying, wait a second, Wake Forest, we're not going to get relegated.
Wait, you've met a Wake Forest fan?
I had right at the beginning, right when Florida State sued, I got probably 20 DMs from Wake Forest people, locked on Wake Forest, 247 Wake Forest, because they were acting just like Washington State and Oregon State, because they know they had the most to lose.
Holy smokes.
So now, and that's why I've not made fun of Pitt fans necessarily, but I think Pitt fans have taken the same route that Utah did. They know their value in their head. They know where they want to be and who they've been playing with for the last how many years they've been in the conference. Their value is in their head. It's not reality. And you know that now because you've gone in and looked at the numbers. They think they're worth this. The rest of the world's telling them they're worth this. It's the exact same thing. And they're the only ones that would talk. Our team here, we had to chase down Florida State people. We had to chase down Miami people, Clemson people, because it's taken them forever to get going. Now, Florida State and Clemson fans are everywhere talking about realignment, ready to go and everything. Miami's starting to get there. And that's because in their minds, they think they have a destination. The rest of the schools, I think Louisville, like I said, I want to make sure I get his name right again. Let's see. It is Dalton Pence, a Louisville guy. When I heard him on Locked On Big 12, he was the one guy that was being reasonable. He's like, you know what? Yeah, we probably will end up in the Big 12. So let's go in and be strong and do the best we can in that conference. And that's kind of what Utah did. They were before Colorado fans. Utah fans were the first ones to realize, wait a second, the train has left us. Let's get out in front of this and let's dominate the Big 12, right? And I think Louisville fans are that pragmatic as well. There's so many similarities. I could draw a chart. Maybe one day I'll do that. I'll draw a chart and show you exactly how those dominoes fell. And by the way, all of this was underwritten by Bob Thompson, who's been a friend of the show for a long time.
Shout out to Bob Thompson. We love you, Bob.
Shout out, Bob.
Anyway, does that answer your question? I hope
absolutely. It's a great response. Thank you.
Yeah, as a third party, for me, I've just been watching, right?
Yep. Well said. I'm still shocked that Wake Forest fans reached out to you, though. It's funny because I've never seen those guys on Twitter, but apparently they hit the DMs pretty hard, it sounds like. So.
Well, because they saw the writing on the wall. They don't want to be Washington State or Oregon State.
It's just
Well, they
curious
got
that
out
their
in front.
approach is to DM rather than go out there in public.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I don't. You know what? I haven't heard from those people in 6-8 months.
I think it was all the same guy, just with multiple.
Maybe. I don't
Some
know.
burners.
Yeah, I don't know. I could go back through my DMs. I don't want to call anybody out, but there was
Don't
some
call
that I was like, I'm going to have a conversation. You come on the show. Tell me why Wake Forest deserves to be in the. Sorry. Tell me
Try
why.
and say that with a straight face, Nate.
Tell me
Come
why
on.
Wake Forest deserves to be in the SEC.
They're not going to say anything.
How do you even have a conversation when that's the question? It just doesn't. Just don't even know what to say. Anyway, sorry, that's a diatribe. You can call that a bomber one-off. I try not to do this very much. These guys are smarter than I am, but from a historian's perspective, that's exactly how it's gone down. And I bet you Moen can add a little flavor to that too. Give us some salt and pepper on that, Moen.
Yeah, let's hear Mo. Let's hear your perspective as an outsider here. What's going on? Similarities between Pac-12 situation, the ACC, and responses from fan bases.
Boy, I don't know, because the similarities, Clemson and Florida State want out, but they're not out yet. USC and UCLA just left. They had a year left, and they just said, we're leaving. We'll see ya. There was no lawsuits. There was none of this that was going on. But I do see Pitt is what I think is closer to Utah. Pitt fans have told me they belong in the Big Ten, as if that's a realistic option. I'm here to tell you it's not. Penn State is never going to allow Pitt to be in the Big Ten. We're not going to take a second school in Pennsylvania. So I think Pitt is a lot more like Utah than Louisville is. I think they're going to get drugged, kicking and screaming in. And then as soon as they get there, they're going to start talking about all the smoke they're bringing.
They are. That's exactly right.
You think they're going to talk smack once they're in the Big 12? Pitt fans? Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Well, the way you said that, Moen, it sounded like maybe I didn't make myself clear. The Pitt fans and the Utah fans were identical up until the point they realized the train had left them in the station. Then they flipped over, and that's when they became closer to what Louisville's doing now. They started as one and then changed to the other.
Louisville's like the Arizona.
Yeah,
Louisville's
I think
very similar to Arizona in this game.
I think that's the case,
Arizona
but I will say the difference. The main difference here is I think the Big 12 was all on board with the four corners. I think there's going to be people in the Big 12 who are going to be disappointed in who they get from the ACC. I think there's going to be some teams in there that people are not on board with.
What? Please elaborate, Moan. Who?
Well, break it down.
Well,
Who
look,
are those
if they get
schools?
Syracuse.
No, he's
Syracuse.
No, yeah, he's talking about. Go ahead.
I wouldn't be upset with
Syracuse. No, but most Big 12 fans, I think, would have an issue if they took a Syracuse over, let's say, a Virginia Tech.
Right.
We haven't broken that down yet, though, right? We haven't broken down Syracuse to the Big 12 yet.
Nope.
No, but I'm sure if you go through Wild Ute University, you will see Syracuse is a very good fit for the Big 12.
Right.
People might not see it on the surface, but when you crunch the numbers, they're more of a Big 12 team than most people realize.
They're a UConn amplifier, a UConn with football. That's what they are. So, yeah, they bring more than UConn to the table. But
yeah, UConn's in
the
trouble.
outlier, no one's – I know that Immaculate's not on with us tonight, but Georgia Tech. Cheers to that. But Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Seriously, like Georgia Tech is somebody you might not think on the surface would be an immediate Big 12 fit or add, but kind of like a Duke, but it might make sense there too.
And there would be people within the Big 12 who would be against Georgia Tech.
I mean, if you really laid it out, though, geographically right there with UCF, having Atlanta and everything, it makes a lot of sense.
Don't you think Big 12 fans or Big 12 fans have figured out it's about survival. It's not about regionality or preferred fits. It's about putting the strongest people in the same conference so they can survive to the next wave of realignment. I think most Big 12 fans now are pretty pragmatic.
I think some of them also might have a little heartbreak when it doesn't fall exactly how they want it to fall.
Oh, sure. There'll be disappointment. Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, the same thing with Big Ten fans when they end up with Florida State, Miami. I know most Big Ten fans don't want Miami, but they're probably going to end up with Miami.
Yeah, I don't know. Why wouldn't you want to go to South Florida once every couple of years?
Because most of them, they think you're getting Florida with Florida State, and they don't want Miami because they don't have their own stadium. They haven't had a winning season since Ohio State beat them for the national. They haven't had a successful, I should say, other than that one Mark Richt year.
I think Miami is on the cusp. Now that there's no rules, you could bring in that 2 Live Crew money.
Somebody better teach Mario Cristobal how to take a knee.
I am telling you right now, they will put untold millions into the football program, knowing that there's no restriction and they're not going to get called into Congress and they're not going to be against tax evasion and all that other stuff that killed them in the 80s when they found them in the 90s. Now those rules are gone. I think they're going to come in, and Miami is a sleeping giant right now.
What I'd like to see, guys, back to the Big 12 is adding 4 East Coast ACC teams and then splitting the conference east-west for travel reasons, especially to reduce travel costs. And so you'd have a 10-team Big 12 West, 10-team Big 12 East. That would help a lot. And plus, you'd get more geographical rivalries. Like, you know, for example, BYU, Colorado, Utah, Colorado, Arizona's and everything, bring Texas Tech over, K-State. I think that really makes sense. And we need to get there because it's just too spread out right now. Big 12, especially with UCF down there by themselves on an island. Got to take care of those guys. I mean, that's going to be a struggle, right, in the long term. So Big Ten's in that situation too. I mean, those 4 out on the West Coast are so dang far away. That's going to be a freaking issue, and there's no way around it. Like, you can make a little pod out there, like a 14 pod, but still, it's going to be a huge disadvantage for all those schools coming, you know, to the Midwest to play a football game and other sports, of course, and everything. I don't know how the Big Ten figures that out with the travel issue. Like, I mean, no one's talking about that since the ads happened, but look at the freaking space. You have to travel cross country for a game.
Yeah, but there's enough schools, you only do it once every 2 years.
But like,
or
I mean,
maybe once every 3 years.
As far as the Big Ten, like, what if you're Oregon, right? Think about Oregon's football schedule.
Oregon's going to have to travel a ton, but I'm saying the other schools in the legacy Big Ten schools, there's enough of them. They're not going to have to do it, but once every 2 or 3 years.
Talking about Oregon and the West Coast schools, Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA, you play 3 games versus each other every year. Then you're traveling cross country for everything else. That's not a home game. That's a severe disadvantage. Right. Just look at the NFL when everyone's like talking about you have cross country travel when you've got like the Dolphins playing, you know, the Seahawks. You lose all the time. Like, that's going to be a huge burden on these West Coast schools. There's no way around it, though, because the Big Ten's probably not going to go to the Mountain Region down more schools, and they're not going to make a bigger pot over there for a division. So I don't know how the Big Ten figures that out. I think it's a severe disadvantage in the future for the West Coast schools of the Big Ten.
I completely agree.
So we got to protect against that in the Big 12. That's why the UCF needs brothers, you know, like a Georgia Tech or somewhere else, like even an NC State, right, that we're talking about. So super important.
Mo, and you want to take this comment from Cleveland Rocks. He says, it appears everyone is putting the cart in front of the horse to assume Clemson and FSU leave. The courts haven't spoken yet with a true ruling.
Cleveland Rocks is absolutely right, but I think the number's going to be there. Somebody's going to come up with a number that's going to make everybody happy. It's not going to make anybody happy, probably, actually. I think Florida State and Clemson will end up paying more than they want, and I think the ACC won't get as much as they want. But I think they're going to hit that number. So, I mean, those schools want gone. And I think for the ACC, you probably want them gone because having people like that in your conference, it's just going to cause more, you know, it's like having a cancer in the locker room. It's just going to cause more and more and more and more issues. So, and we've seen that with, Greg talked about it tonight. Now the boosters at Chapel Hill are getting a lot more forceful. So,
Let's take that comment next from Steve. According to PATC, that's Peek Around the Corner, a friend of the show, Greg Flugar,
Shout out, Greg.
says North Carolina money perch are getting more vocal. When money talks, politicians walk. That's what at least that's what I've been saying. Straight line to the money that keeps them in office. So, yeah.
They're not, the boosters aren't asking anymore, they're telling. So I think now you're going to see North Carolina is going to have to come out and actually do something,
Right.
instead of just sitting back and waiting. They have to make some kind of statement or declaration or some kind of movement, any kind of movement. And I think Greg was kind of hinting at it today that this is his exclusive for today. So I would keep an eye on the news cycle for tomorrow and Thursday,
Right.
because Greg's usually right. He's usually right on the money. So he's taken a few L's, but he's got a hell of a lot more W's on realignment than anybody else.
Absolutely.
You want to add anything to that, you?
I do. Remember here. The Wolfpack backpack. That's what this conversation's about. See that the money perch is talking right here, and the UNC Tar Heels trying to shed the backpack right here. That's exactly what's going on, in other words. So just remember this photo, this picture, every time you think about UNC and NC State. The Wolfpack backpack.
It doesn't make any sense. How does that Tar Heel tie his shoes? You come on.
Georgia Tech. Everybody take a drink.
I'm done.
Let's do that. Doc Gibbs has another question here. Were Pac-12, and you can answer this directly. Were Pac-12 schools that felt too good for the Big 12 a lot, or just a few like Utah?
I'm going to answer this very candidly. It's true. Pac-12 schools did think they were too good for the Big 12, and Utah was one of them. Arizona was not. Arizona wanted to come to the Big 12. Arizona State did not. Obviously, Arizona State was the worst of the worst because of the stuff that was said after the fact that they were added, and they slandered West Virginia in particular, which was grotesque. But Stanford and Cal were in the same boat. And so Oregon and Washington were in the same boat, guys. And USC and UCLA would have been in that boat too if they didn't have the Big 10 lifeline. So there were, most of the Pac-12 felt that way. And here's the reason why, because just a year and a half before, the Pac-12 decided against adding the Big 12 schools. Every single one of them they passed on. The only ones that were in consideration. So let's fast forward. Let's look at it a couple years back. Okay, what happened last year happened. That's fact. That's reality. But if you zoom back a year and a half before, when the Big 12 hadn't added BYU yet, and you had the hateful 8 schools that were left behind from Texas, they wanted to get into the Pac-12. They went to the Pac-12, and they wanted the Pac-12 to add everybody or whoever could go.
Sorry about that.
And so that happened. And so the Pac-12 turned every single school in the Big 12 down at that time. And the reason for that largely was driven by USC. USC did not want to expand because they were wanting to move to the Big 10. So they did not want to get locked down with another extension or a grant of rights. In hindsight, that's exactly what happened. USC squashed that, but everybody followed USC's footsteps. And so when you're going to last year, all of a sudden you're saying, hey, we could jump over to the Big 12, but yeah, a year and a half earlier, we just turned down every single school in the Big 12. Why would we join them if we've already turned them down? That's just the hard reality of it. And like in the emotional reality, really what happened with that situation. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of schools. And so that's the history of what happened with the Pac in the Big 12. Facts, 4 corners jump over. It's over now, but yeah. I mean, they were in a completely different position a year and a half before. They wouldn't even add one Big 12 school. It's amazing, guys. They didn't even add one school.
Sorry about that noise interruption. I was trying to get to I couldn't find where it would bring the person up so I could poke the message to him. But Doc Gibbs, it definitely has an issue with the way we're describing the ACC. So Doc, I just posted the link. I'm going to invite you to join the show. You don't have to come on camera. Just grab your phone, click it. You can just talk to us. But you seem pretty, animated about what we're saying about the ACC. And I want you to try to talk to us, help us understand why you think that it's not a foregone conclusion, and there might be some movement in there for your school. I know it's a lot of people don't want to join the show. There's no pressure though. It's literally just come on and spend a few minutes with us to have a conversation. That's all it is. But he's again saying these guys act like the ACC split up is locked, and then the Big 12 shops like ACC schools are their candy. And that is a description that I think fits. It is true.
I think that's correct. I mean, he's not. We do phrase it that way.
Yeah,
I would pause it back, and maybe if you feel comfortable joining the show, like why in the world will the ACC survive? Let me push it back at you. What rationale is there for the ACC to survive in this new college football landscape? Let's look at the reality. You've got two schools that are suing your own conference that want to get out. Those two schools offer the most viewership, 35% of all football viewership in the conference, which drives media rights values. And your television contract isn't really worth much more than the Big 12's right now, with the certainty of those two big schools that haven't left yet. So, I mean, it looks dire. Your contract goes out for another 12 years. Your cash flows are stomped for the next 12 years. So schools want to get out to maximize their revenue. Like when you look at the actual facts and figures, it's very concrete and very clear to see, guys. And like the only thing that matters here is how much settlement money that the rest of the ACC schools are going to get to see if it's enough to offset jumping to the Big 12. What's the present value of all that risk and stuff that you're looking at? We're going to talk about that next Tuesday. I'm serious about that. Get the facts and figures for everyone to see that. And it's really how much settlement money can you accept to mitigate the future revenue loss of losing Florida State and Clemson. That's all this conversation is. FSU and Clemson are gone. They're not staying. They don't want to stay. They're gone. And so it's sobering. It's hard. I get that and everything, but that's just the fact of it.
Dead Max says, great explanation, Wild Ute. So I think you made that pretty clear. Ute and I are completely aligned in this regard. I don't think there's reason to say the same opinion. Moen, do you want to add anything to what Ute said?
No, I mean, obviously he's got firsthand experience. I don't.
Okay. All right. Let's get to some more comments. Doc, we appreciate your engagement, though. Thank you for being here, and keep coming back. We'll definitely try to cover as much of that ground as we can. We are an opinion show. There's no doubt about it, but we don't make stuff up. And the stuff we're talking about is analysis on data that we put together. If you've been a member or want to join and be a member for a month, you watch those Wild Ute University videos that are on the main College Football Mafia page, and you'll kind of see where we're going. And I think that by itself gives, breadth and length to what our opinions are. Jeff Fuller just popped in, a friend of the show. Appreciate you being here, Jeff. He says, I've done Sorry, go ahead. What did you say?
No, I'm just, whenever Jeff pops in and throws some numbers out, I get super excited.
Another guy that's a number junkie. I've done a total avid fans calculation. You're going to have to give Ute what that calculation is, Jeff. Send him a DM so he knows what total avid fans actually means. What's the calculation? All sports, but weighed heavily for football. For every FBS school, writing up the study articles now. Here are the rankings from 56 to 83. And then I guess he's going to be posted the rankings. I didn't look down there. Oh, I see what he's doing. He's working backwards. Liberty, San Diego State, Memphis, Jackson. Oh, wait, JMU. Is that, what is that?
Yeah, that's
James Madison.
Madison.
Right. Colorado State, Navy, Army, Northwestern. Jeff,
pause. So are we saying JMU has more avid fans than Memphis and San Diego State? Kudos.
You got to see what that calculation looks like.
Right.
You finish typing those, Jeff, and I'm happy to go through them. Here's some more. UConn is 56. Rutgers, Virginia, Cincinnati, Oregon State, Pitt, Syracuse, Vanderbilt, Houston, Stanford, Boise, App State, Georgia Tech, Fresno, Boston, Washington State, ECU, and USF. So counting up, I guess. UConn is 56. Keep them coming, Jeff. We'll get to some more comments here in the meantime. Just giving everybody a timer. We're about 15 minutes, and we're going to wrap it up. So if you want to do a super chat now. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to jump in and and I know Doc's out there and stuff, and he's
Sure.
upset with some of the stuff we say. We love the passion. Like we love the conversation, debate. We see things a certain way, but we aren't stifling any other views here. We're always going to be open to other views and considerations and information and everything. And so just you're welcome here. You belong here. Like you can say what you will, just keep it civil somewhat and everything, but we're all passionate. Every single one of us, and you are too. So you belong here. So let's just have a conversation around it. If you're an ACC, and I get it, your passion to keep the ACC alive is what could keep the ACC alive. And that's the kind of stuff you need. So
here's a reply from Doc. He says, thanks for the invite. Okay, thanks again. Utes description on ultimate ACC demise was irrefutable. Big part is under what circumstance would ESPN not kill the current ACC media contract? I don't think the three of us, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think either one of the three of us thinks that contract is going to stay the way it is today. Once Florida State and Clemson leave, there's no way the value holds to the current contract. Are we agreeing there?
yes.
Yeah, you just can't. Unfortunately, I mean, they bring up too much. They comprise too much value to that conference to maintain the payment as it is. Well, I mean, they're underpaying still. Yes, they're underpaying, but they're still going to renegotiate it down if Florida State and Clemson get out.
You want to add anything to that?
Looking at the media landscape, this is what the PAC found. It's just really difficult right now. The PAC couldn't get that same offer that ESPN offered them for $30 million, and the Big 12 took that deal, and they couldn't get anything close to that again for $30 million for the PAC teams. And given that ESPN has gone all in the NBA and paid a grundle of money for the NBA rights real recently, and that there's just not a lot of money that ESPN really has on the docket right now. So if they got money back from the ACC contract from Clemson and Florida State leaving and they could renegotiate that, I just don't think it's the best time for a media rights negotiation at all. It's a really bad environment. Plus you're losing a lot of the eyeballs. It's really tough. That's super tough. So really it comes down to how much money can you get out of FSU and Clemson if you're in the ACC to bridge the gap. That's what it all comes down to. ACC for survival has come down to a settlement amount, really. And we'll see how much it is. But you need to, if you're an ACC fan, you need max money. You need big money. And maybe that can keep you afloat and stuff until the next contract cycle. And maybe ESPN renews you for a lower dollar amount, and back in 2035, 2036, things look different. The landscape looks different. But that's the best case scenario if you're wanting the ACC to survive.
We got a super chat here from Tony Lawson. Thank you very much, Tony, for $2. We have a shout out to Tony. I know you got something there mowing for him.
Winner.
What I'd like to do is read this, and I want to say one other thing to Doc. His opinion is Wisconsin blows. Keep up the good work. Uh-oh. Where's Ryan at? Is Ryan still in the house?
My opinion is that Wisconsin's probably going to kick the crap out of Wisconsin or Minnesota this year. So, Tony, you're writing checks. I don't know that you guys can cash yet.
At least the Greek rifle's gone, right? Mo, and the Greek rifle's gone. Right? He's not in the program.
It's true,
anymore,
they've got
right?
Max Bozemer, but I'm telling you, they're going up against Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell's just a better coach, in my opinion.
Wisconsin is
DJ
absolute.
Fleck.
They're sleeping giant. I think Wisconsin's going to be a team to look out for the next 5 years in the Big Ten.
Whoa, throwing
sure.
it out there, Wisconsin.
I mean, that's not even a big take. I mean, Luke Fickell's a great coach.
I agree with them.
I mean, seriously, Wisconsin's a team to look out for.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. Doc, really quick, one other thing. Find me on Twitter, and we can continue this conversation offline. It doesn't have to be on the show, obviously. And maybe we could throw something together where you're involved. Maybe you're not on the show, but we go through some of the points that you have. Because we've been searching, as I've asked 3 times this show, for people to give us feedback in the ACC land and get involved. Well, all we're looking for is people to get involved and let us know. Who knows? Until it's written, we could be totally wrong, right? So, and that goes for anybody else, not just Doc. Anybody who wants to engage on level, send one of us a DM. Our contact information's underneath our pictures. And, get involved.
Especially if you want the ACC to survive. That's a perspective that's been kind of silenced and everything. We need to hear that perspective.
Here's one that isn't so optimistic. Friends Call Me Sean says ACC survives if ESPN renews contract and FSU, Clemson, Miami, UNC settlement is enough to keep the schools together. Ute, what do you want to say? Tease that a little bit.
Yeah, he's right. And Sean's an FSU fan, so he's got the FSU perspective, and I agree with him here too. Like that, if those 4 schools leave, you're taking such a massive chunk of viewership. Although UNC and football viewership isn't the top 6, still the basketball viewership's elite. It's just a lot of money that every school needs to bring to the table, and I think it's a little bit more than folks think. But I could break out the analysis for next Tuesday with UNC included. I'll do that for you, Sean. So we'll have that one too, that scenario too.
That's pretty good. That's a lot of work. So I hope everybody will take the time to come watch us next week, because I can't tell you how many tens of hours, many hours Ute puts into this analysis. Takes it very seriously. One last comment from Doc. He says, to the extent it still has value after 2027, although smaller, the ACC could be a retreat for members after FSU and Clemson leave, with additions of USF, Memphis, and I'm assuming maybe other schools that have value. This becomes a better alternative, but is it enough to keep the value? I don't think anybody thinks they're gonna bring like half value, but it's
what you do. You're right, Bomber, 100%. They're going to bring half value, but they're going to get the same terms that SMU got.
Right,
some real low. So if you're, let's talk about what you do. If we were all Wake Forest fans on this channel, let's talk about the other side in best case scenario. So FSU and Clemson are gone. Miami's likely gone. You know that. Certainly FSU and Clemson. So you're trying to maximize settlement money. As a Wake Forest fan right here in this hypothetical, I'm trying to maximize their paying out and everything today, so I can get max money to bridge myself in the future, because I'm not going to get as much revenue down the line until 2036. ESPN is going to renew that. Hopefully ESPN is willing to renew the contract next year when they have that decision going into 2027 for a lower dollar amount. But the money that I get in settlement could bridge that and maybe be on par with the Big 12. That's what I care about. It can be on par with the Big 12. And if that's the case, maybe the ACC schools will want to stay together. Then at that point, you can consider expansion. You could add a USF. You could add a Memphis. You could add Oregon State and Wazoo for a lower revenue payout. So it lifts the revenue payouts for the existing members more. And so best case scenario for ACC survival, that is how it looks. The question, though, and the important question is, how much settlement money do you need to make that scenario work? And that's the important thing. That's what we're going to be talking about. And unfortunately for ACC fans, it's bigger than you think.
Here's a comment for you, Moen. Doc says, as a matter of fact, as long as the ACC keeps all core schools like UNC, even Notre Dame could continue all its sports, not football, in the ACC. So their part membership is a part membership in Notre Dame enough to anchor that conference so they keep their media value?
I mean, the question is going to be, would Notre Dame want to continue to be in the conference without Florida State and Clemson? That's a major hit to the reputation of that conference. Notre Dame might at that point say, hey, we can't stick around. We gotta look out for the best interest of our football program and go somewhere like the Big Ten or the SEC or the Big Ten or the SEC.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. All right. I think we've gone through the gamut. We've covered the ground that we're most expert in. I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. It's been a fun 2 hours. Thank you for being here. Let's do some sign-out stuff. Moen, what's your takeaway from this evening?
I never got to do my hypothetical if I was a Wake Forest fan.
Oh, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Please.
I want to hear it.
Hypothetically, if I was a Wake Forest fan, I'd be a very high-paid lawyer. I'd be dating a woman half my age and eating pizza right now and drinking better whiskey.
You're not watching football, right? Like you don't.
No, I'm not watching football. If I went to Wake Forest, I'm probably a very high-paid attorney. So,
okay,
that's my hypothetical.
Clay Johansson came in the last minute. Appreciate you being here, Clay. Thanks for being a member. Says ESPN still needs content. They gave $30 million to the Big 12 when the Big 12 teams at the at the time right now, those Big 12 teams suck at viewership. Sorry, look at the number. You want to answer that?
Yeah, so if you look at the numbers over the last decade, the G5 ads from the Big 12 don't bring a lot viewership wise. So if you're referring to that, you're absolutely correct. Those would be some of the lowest numbers, like down to the level of a Wake Forest or BC. But what is known as the hateful eight, the remnant of the Big 12 that
I would put
stuck around.
BYU in there too.
BYU's viewership is a little bit below I think the Big 12.
It's 1.1 million a game.
No, it's not.
It is.
Sorry. It's not.
It is. Utah
maybe for 1 year, but over a decade, it certainly wasn't $1 million a game.
Oh,
Sorry.
that might be true. I might have been looking like a 2 or 3 year average. That's possible.
But BYU has an amplifier effect based on like the fan base and stuff. So
That's
BYU's
right.
good in big games, they'll get good ratings. But really, it's not as much as you think. Like when you're looking at the historical Big 12 versus like the middle part of the ACC, it's just apples to apples. It's the same. It's not any different. It's like the same schools, guys, viewership wise. It just is what it is. I mean, so really, like, it's almost like you could just grab the middle of the Big 12 and the top of the Big 12 and then the remnant of the ACC after FSU and Clemson leave and just put them right together and they'd just be like a perfect little family viewership wise.
Okay, very good. All right, Moen, sign us out here.
I love everybody in the chat. There's a big heart for you. Love you. Thank you, everybody, for being a great audience tonight and all the great questions and comments. Even though we may have had answers and opinions that didn't quite line up with yours, know that we do appreciate everybody in the chat. We're very grateful that you came out to have this show with us tonight.
Really quick, before you sign out, I just want to remind everybody we're going to do a show tomorrow night. Unless the news doesn't break that I expect. There's one news item I'm trying to track for tomorrow night. So I'm planning on a show, but just make sure you watch my notifications on Twitter, and I will be putting out a note whether that show will be happening tomorrow night or not. Just a programming note. Ute?
Reminder to all the Big 12 fans that the Utah Utes have a 7-year returning quarterback. He's going to win Big 12 Player of the Year. His name is Cameron Rising. Cameron Rising. Utes will win the Big 12 this year. Not every year, just this year, and win a playoff game. Go Utes.
Go Utes. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We had a lively conversation. I appreciate everybody that's here. Whether you agree with us or not, it is part of the conversational style that we do and the analysis that we're doing for you. So I appreciate you coming in. If you'd like to participate a little bit more, you want to be on the show, send any one of us a DM on Twitter and let's have a conversation. We can talk about it. We definitely want to be more engaged, as Moen said just a second ago. And you guys all matter to us. We appreciate you being here. And I want to thank everybody that participated on Super Chats and then, of course, all the member comments. Other than that, I appreciate everybody. Have a safe night. If you did Georgia Tech and drank a little bit, please do not drive. I don't want to get an email from the FBI taking responsibility for somebody else's stupidity. Other than that, everybody have a great night and stay out of trouble. We'll talk to you later. Peace.